Okay. For me, one of the challenges was kind of getting used to things again. Um, you know, not having to just watch church on the computer and not worrying about choir practice and having meetings that are on the computer so we don't have to go anywhere. And I still find that a challenge. It's nice not having to go anywhere, but then again, you miss being with everybody. Okay, so I think that that's something maybe we can look forward to is being together with other people in various scenarios more and appreciating just being with other people. You know that. Okay.
Well, as an extreme extrovert, 2021 and 2020 were pretty hard years for me. I was initially very thankful for Zoom, but it just doesn't have the same vibes. I mean, when you're around people, it's very different from just watching yourself on a screen and trying to adjust your hair. uh, and so it Zoom after a while, just a few months, just really became difficult for me. And you just don't pick up nonverbal cues on Zoom like you do in person. And people would interrupt and, overtalk because you just weren't aware of the people around you. And the other thing was I'm a super volunteer and I'm in all these groups, and I would notice that the participation would drop and drop and drop. And so we just weren't getting the same participation over the years, that the 2 years that we were getting before. And I miss seeing those people and being involved with them. It was nice when I finally got a group of friends who would go out to eat as long as we could sit outside and, wear our masks other when we weren't eating. Although I don't think that was very cautious, it was really necessary for me. It just became very important to have that human contact. And I, when Omicron was announced and we people became frightened again to gather, I just really became angry. I'm just tired of this. I really want to be able to get back to my life the way I liked it because I enjoy having that contact and doing things, being around people. So hopefully this will be the last surge. Who knows though? Thanks. Well, it's like hurricanes. They just start with something else.
Well, I'll take the opposite, the introvert's point of view. 2020 was fabulous for me. It was just a dream come true. And now I'm real tired of it. I find it more isolating. I'm really grateful that I have close friends that spend time with me one-on-one, and that's been a real godsend. And I've also had, on the brighter side, a lot of opportunities for personal growth. I'm just tired of growing alone. So I still enjoy the solitude that the pandemic brings us, but I'm real ready for some new experiences.
Well, I think the biggest challenge for me has been not feeling overwhelmed by fear. Fear for our democracy and fear for the planet, and fear also for my grandchildren until they got vaccinated, and my kids, and just to remember, there. I listened to Jack Cornfield, and he talks about the thousand sufferings and the thousand joys. And it's like the sufferings, it's kind of easy to remember. And then we have to really put some energy into the joys. And so that's been the challenge for me. And then the joy of the gift that the pandemic or the last 2 years has brought me is, when it had to kind of boil down to the essence of what I need to be happy, I did find out what that was. It was, like I've been involved in so many things, and then it boiled down to, okay, I've got to play music, I've got to go bird watching, and I've got to go to church, and then I can keep my mental health. So it was clarifying for me.
About that so many people are suffering. They cannot get to the hospitals in certain parts of the town, in certain races or economic situations. And so many people that are getting COVID are in pain and losing their life or their loved one. And it's not affecting me physically in my life in any way. I'm staying home more, but I'm pretty content locally as long as I don't think about the global situation. And consequently, I feel like I ought to be doing something, but there's nothing I can do to stop COVID other than wearing a mask and having minimum contact with people. So I feel bad, and that's a challenge to overcome that rather pointless sense of guilt about that which I cannot change. And in the face of that struggle, the solution for me is just resting in a sense of gratitude for this planet, for this world. The planet's going to do fine even without us. Life is going to go on in all of its facets without humans, if that should happen. Well, eventually, of course, it will, as the sun burns. And my job is to rest in a sense of gratitude, do what little I can locally, but appreciate what I have. That's the only way I can justify my good fortune compared to others that I cannot help.
I'm a little bit, I don't want to say concerned, but I think we're focusing our problems on COVID. I mean, it seems to be in the middle of the room, and we can't seem to get away from talking about it. And he said guilt. I still feel guilty for the whole country about what's happening over there in Afghanistan. I'm sorry, but sorry to bring that up, but it's just terrible. I try to contribute to a few worthy causes. We really aren't. We really aren't thinking about it. We're just going about our own thing. Come on, y'all. Y'all means all.
And graces like that. Challenges and graces. Okay, well, this is Carolyn Van Sabern. And I think I've had many of the same challenges with technology because as a physician, I've had to learn new tech to reach out to my patients, but it's also been the saving grace because it improved access to health care for people that couldn't get to the VA for one reason or another. And they've provided COVID testing and so on. I've been out of the loop from church. I just see so much of Zoom at work that I just didn't want to see Zoom through church, and I I guess I've been concerned about the health of the church because it's been so precious to me, and it's just expanded my world so much more than I would have been able to do on my own. Um, and there's been change of staff, and so I've worried how that might affect things. And I just come back to the idea that the church is its people, and I think that's what's brought me back. The talented musicians that we have in the church, and coming back to carols was just, I just felt so heartfelt, and seeing a couple of Journey Day book members here, just being able to go out and meet places and draw. Um, so I just I'm hoping that there's going to be the opportunity for the arts and music to bring people back and to really explore what's important to them. Um, Pastors might have one thought pattern and people may have another. And I think it's important for the people to speak and say what's important to them and not just not be there. I think if something's concerning to you and if something's loved, it's important to put your thoughts and I think this is a great start to get what is important to us out and work towards that. For me, the music and art has been just really, really important to me. So I was talking to my daughter. I've had talks with my daughter and son, and it kind of ties in with Shelby a bit, but I guess they're spiritual, but they're not really religious. And I don't know. I worry that they are not going to benefit like I have by participating in a spiritual community. And I wish I could help them somehow get connected, but their journey hasn't brought them there. I mean, it was their journey was very different than mine. So I don't know. I just think the love that you find in a community is so precious.
Challenges and graces. For the last 2 years, it's been a little challenging. Trying to maintain our sense of community and who we seek to be as United Church of Gainesville has been probably the major challenge of my life and career. I realized, I look back at my pictures of the last year, which is always a good thing to do if you have your iPhones, just to see where you've been and what you've been doing. A year ago, I was once again recording a sermon by myself in the sanctuary. I have 42 different takes of just my welcome. I forgot how challenging it was to try to convey the sense of who we are as the United Church of Gainesville in a video frame, that's going to YouTube. And I'd work my tail off to try to find interesting angles to remind you of the beauty of our sanctuary and try to have the same level of energy, the conversational tone that I think that we know to be who we are. And I didn't realize how exhausting it was, how absolutely exhausting and isolating it was. It was very lonely, because we are a very give and take congregation. It's one of the great things about who we are. And, I didn't realize at the time how emotionally and spiritually draining it was to try to convey that vibe, that sense, when there's nothing to give anything back to you. I think that's probably why I kept the labyrinth out for as long as we did, just because for me, that image of the path, the idea of the journey has been one that I've always kind of latched onto for comfort, and for, inspiration. So that being said, this has been one of the best years of my life. In fact, two of the best years of my life. I was very fortunate that when COVID came, it brought my teenagers home at a time when my son was about to transition off to college. And so where most people are grasping at their high school seniors to try to get one last moment of beauty and connection, we had it. And that was such a gift. For me personally, my trip, my journey, my time of sabbatical was just a godsend. There were challenges, of course, but it was one of the most transformative experiences I've done, and I've been able to do. And I fully recognize that comes from a place of privilege, but for me, I draw my greatest spiritual strength and nurture in nature and in isolation often. But so having the time of sabbatical, of rest, was really good for me because I didn't realize how much I needed it until I took it. David White says rest is the conversation between what we love to do and how we love to be. And I was able to really live into that in that time of rest, at a time of transition for the church, major transition. So I needed it, and it was really terrific. And it has brought my family closer together, which has been a real gift as well. I've always been one, I've always been one that leans toward delight. When my mom died, I had my midlife crisis and went out and bought a convertible, and it is delightful. I mean, and so every day I get to experience these, I seek out delight every day. I get to cruise around and just be delighted in this experience. And I think it's important that we do those things. For me, it's been important just to remind myself and break myself from the monotony of life, which, if we're not careful, we can really fall into pretty easily here, with the patterns of COVID. So it's been challenge, but it's also been delightful. And as I looked, are we doing the year ahead too, what we're looking towards? So as I look towards the year ahead, I'm going to continue to lean into delight. And one of my primary goals is to help us have opportunities exactly like this, to simply be in good community with one another in safe ways, of course. But that is my pursuit. It will be with seminars soon, no pressure, but it's also with small groups. And I really hope that you will all come on the All Church Retreat this year. We're going to do a men's retreat. We'll do it as safely and efficiently and effectively as we can. But it's important that we regather. I've heard that the best worship service from the past year was Church on the Prairie. And I've also heard that no one remembers a word of what was said, but everyone remembers the joy of being together in a place and a time where we felt safe. And that is what I look forward to in the year ahead. So that was a lot. Anyone else?
Who wants to talk about the challenges? Okay, Sue.
I'm Sue. Sorry I'm late. Yeah, actually, a lot of great things happened this year for us. So I'm just incredibly grateful about things that happened. My son passed the bar and got a job. Yes, employed and off the family payroll. My daughter got into a graduate school that she really wanted to get into. In the beginning of the year, I was looking back. I was like, Annie, I was looking back over things that I was worrying about at the beginning of last year, right? And she was going through all those interviews and with countless numbers of schools, because they can do that now because everybody does everything on video, so they don't actually go visit. And she got into the one she really wanted, and that's awesome. And she's in a really awesome state in New Mexico, and she's just enjoying herself terrifically. I got a new job, which I absolutely love. So things really, I'm very grateful. But I'm also grateful for the way that the COVID has focused me, and it's focused my spiritual life. So I've had to work harder at it. So I belong to several different spiritual groups, one of which is the Friday morning prayer group, which I love here. I have I have a few friends who've really stayed in this monk seminar with me, and we're working on that. There's several groups that I've worked at trying to keep friendships and relationships going in those, and trying to keep that kind of camaraderie. I have one group I've been with, a different spiritual group, for 2 years now. We meet every week, and those have become more important. And I put my time into that, because even if we have to do it by Zoom, I feel like that's what sustains and supports me so much. So, yeah, I've just been, it's been, actually, believe it or not, a good year. The challenge that I have had has been politics. That's been my challenge. And I've realized I can't listen to as many news podcasts. I love listening to new podcasts. I'm a NPR junkie, and I have to not do it. I have to listen to fewer things going on TV, because it makes me incredibly negative, and it just increases the desire in me to be divisive and to lash out at people that, I just don't understand. So I have not given up my political beefs. You can tell by the t-shirt that I'm wearing. Yeah. So it says University of Florida / out DeSantis, which is how I work at UF now, and that's how I feel. And I'm also, so I have to watch it with politics, but I'm also feel like you do very much. I actually lived in Afghanistan, and I love the country, and I contribute to, but I'm sick about what's happening there. So, I do what I can, like you were talking about. I do what I can, and then I just have to let go of it at some point. But the politics is the thing that I'm still, I wish maybe we could have more seminars, do a seminar on how do we heal that divide? How do we approach people? How can we be people who really are of good Christian faith and trying to approach this from a spiritual perspective, which I think is damn hard. So that's been my huge challenge. Like the guy down the street from me who still has a Trump sign up, right? So anyway, thanks for letting me share. Do y'all want to share? We've kind of gone around. Mary, it was challenges and
graces of the past year. Is there anybody else that wants to share? Well, I'll say something that reflects a lot of what other people have saying. Yes, the politics have been a great challenge of trying to keep my equanimity, and also the sense of powerlessness to do things that I used to be able to do. First, one-on-one with people, that I've been blocked in some of the things ways I would like to show compassion or would like to ease suffering, and there've been roadblocks caused by the COVID. But there's been graces in the time that winnowing down to what's important, is what several people have said, having more quiet time, having more time with art. And I mean, we haven't been rushing out every night like we're doing a lot before COVID. So actually, it's been very peaceful and a much slower kind of way of life that has definitely had its graces. And for the hopes, I hope to be able to find hope, and to be able to find ways, even with the challenges of walking the way of relieving suffering. All right. Anyone else about hopes for the year? let's have a little bit of quiet while we think about what our hopes are for the year.
Well, I believe as a healthcare professional that the pandemic will end. And I wasn't believing it before, but with Omicron, it's so infectious that I think everyone will either be vaccinated or have herd immunity from having had it. So my hope is that the pandemic really ends.
Well, I would like to share Jackie's hope. And also, I guess the way I look at it is it's ongoing flexibility of making adjustments socially and, emotionally, personally. And one of the gains of the last couple years is to have distilled down, as someone mentioned, what's the most important and doing things in smaller units rather than bigger units. The church no longer a big unit, but smaller units within the church that still are very meaningful. Music in small units, art in small units. So it's I'm grateful for that, and I feel like in the looking ahead, I'd like to practice gratitude more consciously, and to be okay with being flexible, which does involve loss because things won't be the way you think they're going to be. So that is.
I'm also very optimistic about the pandemic. I think that we are beginning to come up with remedies, and that the pill that addresses it, that I've forgotten what it's called now, but will be more available as the year goes on, and that it will stop the pandemic and we can treat it much more effectively. I think that we are very, very fortunate in this nation that we have had a group of scientists who have worked so hard to address it so quickly. And I just hope and pray that we can get that knowledge out to the rest of the world. And I know Africa is like 3% of the population has been vaccinated, and we really need to help the rest of the world as much as we can. And I hope we can do that in this coming year. And frankly, politically, I'm just praying that this year isn't a wash of values that I don't condone or appreciate, and that we can stand up morally and for our country and help impose or at least encourage the values that most of us here, I think, appreciate and want to have valued. And for myself, I want to remain active in the political arena, and as well as in other more just helping other people as much as I can. I have lost 4 friends to COVID, and it has been hard to accept those deaths, particularly when they were already going through, one was already going through cancer and then developed COVID and died rather painful death, long death. So in that respect, it's been hard, and I'd love to see some relief for that, and to be able to get back to being with friends in close contact and entertaining and enjoy being with people.
It's getting close to the time that if anybody needs to go to the 11:15. Are there any other hopes that people want to express?
Well, I think one of the challenges has been staying connected with people. And so my hope is that I can find new ways of connecting with people, of looking at the structure of the church in a new, inventive ways to sort of leverage the things that I like and not be bothered by things that I don't like. So the things that I like are, it's the people. We're a church of the people. So it's been hard staying connected with people, and I hope that I can do more connection with people.
Hey, is there anyone else who has something to say? I want to thank you all for being here and for expressing what you did, and for being in this community right here, of expressing what our challenges and what our hopes are. So